Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to give the talk. My talk is going to be pretty general, but afterwards I'm happy to go into a heap more detail if you guys want that. I just thought I'd cater to a bigger audience instead of going down one route in super detail. I sort of tried to cover most aspects. Everything's going to be from my personal opinion, so if you disagree with my opinion, that's okay. But instead of using outside information, I just went what I've personally gathered over many years of keeping. So I just thought that was best to give that perspective. So a bit about me. So I'm a trained scientist as well. And I got into shrimp keeping for different reasons. So I had a mate that passed away and I sort of got in it that way. So we sort of used to do it, and I did a bit more and a bit more. And I really enjoyed it, and now I've got a big room, and it's been a really fun journey. So I run Colour Shrimp Australia, which is a Facebook group. It's 5,300 members, which is not huge, but there's a fair few keepers and enthusiasts on there. So on there I sort of show off my shrimp, help members, answer people's questions, and just interact with the community as much as possible. And make information posts once a month. So someone messages me a topic, I sort of make a whole post about it and educate people that way. Shrimp types, I keep 87 different shrimp types. So it's a pretty busy room. I'm pretty private of what I sort of show of that, just because I've got a stalker, and that's been a bit of a hard issue. But yeah, it is what it is. So other things I'll sort of cover is the rest of that list, so I'll sort of cover all that in different details throughout the talk, and then at the end, if you want specific questions, I can go back, answer the questions, and make it more detailed if that's what you'd like. So it's sort of catered to whatever you want. I'll just skip that because I just sort of glossed over that before. That's my shrimp page, so if you'd like to join, feel free to join. If you want to send me a message, that's I don't mind, it's good. Just sometimes it's like a 3-day turnaround before I get back to you, because so many messages flood in every day, and I work full time, so it's hard to get back to everyone in a timely manner. So this presentation is pretty much going to cover 3 different types of shrimp, but there's so many, there's wild types, there's so many different types of shrimp, I couldn't cover them all. So we got Neocaridina davii ice, that's Neos. You got 2 different Caridinas, one tiger and one bee. So these 3 are probably the most common you'll interact in the hobby. You've got Balbuti, they're wild type. They're really nice. You'll know the zebra one, and zebras are probably the most common one there, you'll know of that one. And then Wessie shrimp, as we've seen tonight in that little pre-slide. And then there's like many different types of those, but in Australia, the white sock would probably be the most termed one you'd all probably know. And then obviously there's heaps of native types and subtypes. There's an extensive library of those. So this is just going to highlight all the different Neos. So there's a lot. And so they all sort of start from red cherry, and then they branch out, and you've got wilds that come down into here and different wilds that start. And then here's a whole different line out here. So white pearl, we don't really have white pearl, but the closest we would call would be a snowball. And what I'd like to highlight here is just because it's a colour doesn't mean it's actually that type. So it's a problem in the hobby at the moment. So a lot of people buy what someone else labels as something, and it's actually this one, not that one. Or you get later in the talk, I'll explain about green shrimp, but there's many different types of green shrimp, it's just not all a green jade. Whereas a lot of people call a green shrimp as just a green jade by association, but genetically that's not the case. And I'm pretty full on when it comes to different shrimp types. I split all mine, and but there's a lot of different ones. That's what I'm trying to get across here, is a lot of different types of Neos. There's not just like your 5 basic ones that most people think. So just talk about a Neocaridina tank setup. So here's one of my tanks that I would say would be perfectly set up for Neos. and I'll just explain this. So 10 litre tank's probably the smallest you want to go. I probably wouldn't recommend 10 litres is like to start, probably go 30 to 40. Anything bigger than that, it's getting a bit big for what you need, for basics, for only shrimp keeping. They don't need a lot of room. I just do a basic sponge filter. You can go many different types of filter, but for me, with so many tanks, sponge filter is easier, and it's cheap, and it works. So I put sand in all my Neo tanks, and a lot of people sort of wonder why. But you don't want the poo sinking down because it's hard to get out, and it can cause bacterial infection in the shrimp. So I put a thin layer of sand, then I put gravel on top to make the shrimp look nicer. And then when you're sucking it out, it only goes so far because the rocks are only one layer deep. So all the poo just sitting on the sand, you can get it off really easy. So that's why I do that. And then you don't need an expensive light. Like I run all LED strip, so you don't need the RGB lights, you don't need expensive lights. As long as you put enough input, like nutrient input, you'll get the green walls. You just go. I run the lights 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Yep.
What colour?
Just white.
Hey.
Just white light.
Just white?
Yep.
It's not a daylight
No.
or anything like that? Doesn't have a specific...
No.
Right.
Just white. And then obviously the green walls, you add different supplements. I'll talk about that later on. And that to me is a really good tank. A lot of people think it's pretty bare, which it is, but for a breeding perspective like I do, that's what I want. You know, I don't want to fill it full of plants because if something goes wrong with the shrimp, I can't see it. At least here, I can see any problem in my shrimp. That's just my personal setup.
What type of rock are you using for the ground?
It's landscaping chips.
What was sitting on top of the gravel, that thing?
So this, sorry, all right, I'll explain that. So this is in every tank. It's a bacteria rod. So I find that balances the water a bit better, makes it more stable to change. I have about 500 of these. They only last about 2 years before they start breaking down. They're like really porous. So you want to take good care of them because they make a big difference when you get a lot of shrimp. So these are just some terms I'd like to cover. So in the presentation, so you've got TDS as total dissolved solids. You've got GH, general hardness, KH, carbonate hardness, RO, reverse osmosis water, pH. So you've got basic, which is higher and acidic and low in shrimp keeping. So this is Neo water, this is B water and Tiger water. And then a TDS meter, that shows you what the TDS is, so it reads it. So it's a special little meter you have to buy separate. That's not really, I don't think it's used in fish much, but for shrimp it's very, very needed. And an expensive one really does make the difference in this meter, as I'll explain later. So this is how I'd set up my Neocaridina tank. So you can run them in a heap of different TDS ranges because they're really tolerant, like they're really good to take a big different change in water. I sort of try and run 220 for all my tanks just because it gives me more leniency. With so many tanks, especially in some with evaporation, you can't always get to all the tanks every day to top up the water. So I sort of go 200, 250, I'm happy. If it's outside of that, I start correcting. But you never want to chase the water extremely fast, leads to molt problem. So GH, you want about 7. KH, I run about 3, slightly higher. I find that's better for the shell molting when you have big populations. If you run a 2 or a 1 KH, it's better at the start, but once you get 400 or 500 shrimp in there, they're all sucking up the calcium. So you can run into molt problems really quick. So pH 7.4, but they'll take a massive range of pH. pH for Neos isn't super important, but they will breed better in over 7. So I'd always recommend not adding tannins to Neo tanks. And then temperature, they do a massive range in temperature, but 24 is ideal, you get 50-50 mix of sex. If you run lower temperature, you get more female, run higher temperature, over 24 more male. So I cool my tanks down in winter and bring them up in summer so I can do more breeding. So here's pretty important. So you can run tap water for Neos, but tap water changes slightly week to week. very small change, but if you've got one tank, not too bad. If you try and do as many tanks as I am, it's really hard to control it every week perfectly. So I do all pretty much RO. So what you'll need to do is you need to get a GHKH test kit, and I'll explain about the mineral you can add later on. But yeah, you want to mix the water. So when you're new to keeping, mix your water, then wait half an hour, then check it, and then check it again. Always check it twice when you're new, because little changes in the water really make a big difference. So you want to make sure the temperature matches pretty perfect. So if your tank's 24, make it to 24. Don't make it for 25. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but in the long run, it makes a difference. So yeah, when you're new, always check it twice. For myself, I probably don't check it much, but that's because I'm a bit lazy with it, to be honest. So this is going to cover water change versus evaporation top-up. So people get confused with this sometimes. Maybe not in this audience, but in other audiences they do. So evaporation top-ups, when the water's already evaporated out of the tank, you're not changing it, you're replacing it. So you want to replace it with RO water, because if your tank had 30 litres that went to 28, you lost 2 litres. And those minerals have now increased in percentage is what's there. So you want to add RO water to bring to what you originally had. I do this every day. Every tank gets it every day. I just really believe that you want to make it stable, and it's smaller change if you do it every day. If you do it once a week, you could lose 5 litres of water. Maybe it depends what your tank is, but in summer I can't run lids because I do the whole room instead of a single. And then water change is when you remove the water and you add fresh water that's mixed. That's when you want to mix your water to your tank water. And I mix it pretty much ideal. So if I'm adjusting it through RO, not through the mixed water. That's how I change my levels. It's not by mixing the water at lower or higher. So once you set your tank, you're always trying to stop it going over, not going under. So it's very rarely you'd have to mix your water higher than your tank. There's some situations that I can cover later, but that'd be a pretty rare occurrence for a Neo tank. You're mostly trying to cut the water back. So in here is probably a lot for a PowerPoint, but these are just snippets from my page of information posts that I sort of added in for extra info that we can cover later if you want to. Just thought it would add to the presentation. So nitrates for shrimp, it's not like fish. So for fish, most people would say this is still all right. I would say you're having a whole heap of dead shrimp. My nitrates are always that. They don't change. Like even that one's getting a little high for me, but they're like all pretty good. I feel nitrates for shrimp, it really hurts their molting process. So I find higher nitrates, the malts don't come out as good, they get stuck, or it interferes with their molting ability, and molting kills a lot of shrimp. So definitely young shrimp, older shrimp. So molting, I'll be very careful. So yeah, you can run plants, floating plants to bring the nitrates down, but shrimp don't produce a lot of bioload. So if you feed right correctly, you shouldn't really have nitrates going really high unless you're putting too much food in. So yeah, you don't really have to worry. You can do big, slow water changes to remove them, but you want to do it really slow. Like all my water is all dripped in through airline tubing, and some water changes take 2-3 hours. A lot of people disagree with that, but for me, I've had a lot of success doing it slow. So these are the supplies you'd probably want to pick up in addition to regular keeping supplies. So I've outlined 2 different TDS meters here. So this is a cheap one. It still works. It gives you a pretty okay reading. This is the one I use. It's nearly $100. This cheap one will still work pretty good. If you're trying to do it a little bit more on the fancier side, this one's a lot better. So when you're starting to get into bee shrimp and tiger shrimp, this one really is needed. If you want to do Neos, this one's not too bad. It will work. This is the salt you'll need, the GHKH mineral. That's to mix your water up. So when if you use RO or mix it, or if you use tap water, you need to add more mineral. That's the mineral you want to use. So yeah, that's the GHKH liquid, so you can test your levels. And this is RO water, obviously. You know what RO water is. I just highlighted a few of my ones so you could see. All uniform, all nice colour, all pretty good. This is what most people would say are the most generalised neos in the hobby. So, I'll highlight later, but everyone thinks every blue is always a blue dream, every green is always a green jade, every red is a Bloody Mary or fire red, which sometimes not the case. So here's a few close-ups. So this one is probably one of my most proudest shrimp I've made. It's a orange pumpkin, and it's got very nice leg colour, very nice back colour, very solid, and they breed only to that grade. It took a long time, but they're very good. And here's just a few other ones highlighted.
Conor, what are you selling them for?
Oh, they're not for sale.
Oh, no, what?
No. So my passion's line breeding. So I've made a lot of different shrimps myself. I've tried really hard. But the biggest thing is you've got to start with correct genetics. And sadly, a lot of people just buy someone else's mislabeled shrimp. And I guess I can speak to that a fair bit because every day I get 1 or 2 messages from community members saying, hey, I bought this. How come it's not breeding this? Or I bought this, what's wrong with it? I get that all the time. And my response is, if you bought it from me, you wouldn't have that problem. But I guess my shrimp are a lot more expensive. So this is going to be like a quick run through of the box breeding, way I do it. I've had to cut a lot of stuff out just to sort of fit it in there, but I'm happy to go back. So, take the premise of 3 different lines. So I'll use yellow cherry. Got 3 different tanks. And they have 400 shrimp in each of them. And I want to try and make them better. So what I do is I take 5 females out of tank 1, a male, and I put it in a box. So I have these little floating boxes that float in the tank, so they're isolated. And then all the 5 females get buried with eggs. I then leave them in the box. I wait till they nearly have babies. They go in a brand new tank with all the females. Then they get crossed over the previous adults. So these females grow up, the babies came out and go across this male. Well, where's my pointer? There we go, cross this male. And then they go into a new tank. And then we repeat that and go to tank 2.
How long does that take?
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, 3 months. So it's a long, as I'll explain in this PowerPoint, it's a long process. It's not like a 5-minute job.
So that's a generation or
Yeah.
2 generations?
One.
Generations.
So to make a really good shrimp could take you 8 years, which I'll highlight later in the PowerPoint. So after you've got those 2 different boxes done, you then always grow them in a new tank. Because then if you don't like it, you still got the original line you haven't touched. It's still its own isolated population. So I haven't ruined the tank it come from. I've just ruined what I'm going with. If I don't like it, you terminate it and go back. You just got to have the tanks to do it. So it's not like I have one. Like a lot of people in the hobby have one tank. They just keep culling the worst ones out and just keep leaving the same ones and same ones. You run into problems really quick with inbreeding, which that's not true line breeding. And what I do is sort of a hybrid. So then you rotate your boxes. And then I always keep the originals, but then the next tanks keep going to a different tank and cross. And then we get to this. This is sort of like the finale of it. So you've got box 1 and box 2, you grow the babies. You then cross over. You then put these 2 boxes in a brand new tank and cross. Then you repeat the process for either tank 2 or tank 3. And then you keep rotating. So I have an Excel spreadsheet that covers every tank, and every tank has a sticker, and every sticker is color coded. So, one has a black sticker with a 1, sticker with a 1, and I have a spreadsheet where I map it all. And I'd like to highlight it requires a lot of planning, lots of planning. It's not just like I took some, put some here, put some here. It's a lot of planning, and if you make a mistake, you get a bad result. But this is how I breed my shrimp. And I've got a lot of results from doing it. It's just a lot harder than people realise.
Can I ask, obviously with your line breeding, then do you put any outcrosses at any time?
You have to be careful with outcrosses in the hobby. If you get something that you have to do it eventually, that's why I sort of have my own populations to outcross from.
Okay.
So those tanks never touch until they go to the. It's like I have 3 tanks, 1, 2, 3. These tanks never go between each other unless it's a new tank.
Okay.
Then you take that new tank later on a year down the line, and that goes with the other new tank, and that goes its own new tank. So you just keep going. Eventually, you do have to find some new blood. You have to be very careful where you buy it from, because if you get someone else's like stuff they say is like pure, whatever it's not, you can run into a lot of problems.
You've got a few generations
Yeah,
to fix it.
yeah. Sometimes you can't even fix it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's infixable. So yeah, it's hard. So I'd like to highlight here. See how all these shrimps are all really nice? They're all the same grade. Like this one's shit, but let's see the rest of them are all really good. Yeah, the rest of them are all very good. So I'd say 99% of the shrimp there are all high grade, all uniform, all have nice leg colour, very solid. So you're trying to breed on a colony level, not a single shrimp level. So you want your whole colony to look great, and that's where that's where I price my shrimp a lot more expensive, and why a lot of people dislike me is I price on the whole what every single one looks like, not just what I show in a box. I can go have 400 shrimp at home. I can pick 10 out and go, these 10 box look amazing. Someone breeds it and they get a super varied range. Reason I think my shrimp are pretty good is, that's the range you get. They're all good.
Could I also ask, obviously, because of the colour grade, because you're using dominant red, and then you get the odd recessive bad red, is that like a few generations that you just get the odd bad red that just
so like as your line gets better and your percentage gets better, because they're a neo or any shrimp, you're always going to get a bad one.
Well,
It just happens. But like if this was like a lesser good tank, right, you'd expect like 80% to look like that. And as it gets better and better, you'd expect 20% to look like that. And when it gets to this level, you'd probably get 1 in, 300 to look like that.
but it's skipped, obviously, that recessive, that intensity of red, it's obviously skipped from how many generations for it to still come.
Yeah, you can still get it. Yeah, you can still get it. You can't get rid of it.
So that's heterozygous, and
It's like nearly impossible. So you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to sort of highlight that you breed on a colony level, or try to do. So yeah, as I said, you breed on a colony level, not an individual. So this is important. This bit I want to really highlight. So your next selections need to be based on what you're trying to achieve, not what you currently have. So if you want more leg colour, even if ones don't have leg colour but are better quality, put the leg colour in and go for the lesser quality because you can get the quality back. Leg colour is very hard to get, so select that very early. It's more important than pattern colour or overall body colour. Leg colour is very hard. So this is important, not really in neos because you're only selecting the one colour, right? And you want the most solid, deepest, darkest colour. But when you get to bee shrimp and tiger shrimp, you need to think about colour and pattern. So then you need to pick some that have good colour, good pattern, and mix them together. Because if you only go for good colour, you're going to miss the pattern. And in bee shrimp, I recommend picking the pattern first, then the colour, because the colour is easier to get back than the pattern, especially when you get to some very fancy ones that I'll show later on. So this I'd like to highlight. So this shrimp here in 2018 was probably like a really good one back then. I was stoked to have this. And this was 2 years into the project, right? And this was an orange one. And now this is where we are now. So I spent a shitload of years and lots of culling to get here. And the one I showed before was even better. So you take a lot of years, a lot of effort to produce that specimen. And, it's pricey. But everyone in that tank looks like that. But I just like to try and highlight that people think you get this shrimp, you put a year in and you get this. You don't. If people are saying that, they're just lying to you. I'm not here to try and sell my shrimp at all. I'm just trying to show you that it takes a lot to get there. And yeah, it's a really hard slog. So here I'd like to try and talk to you about a little bit about shrimp. So in the hobby, as I've highlighted a few times, is people think it's a blue dream, if it's a yellow cherry. But if you look at the Neo chart, and there's 5 different types of greens, 4 different yellows, and 6 different blues. They're all different. A lot of people just mix them all in the tank and go, this is my tank of this is my tank of that, but because they buy mixed breed ones that aren't line bred for a long time, they all do different colours, shades in the tank. And to me, that's bad. But to a lot of other people, I don't care. But I'm a real stickler about it. But I like to point out, you can sort of, by how the babies breed, you can sort of tell what you got. So, Blue Neo versus Blue Dream is pretty easy to tell because Blue Dreams don't have any smoky colour, and the colours produced, you can tell, aren't the same. Yellows that give oranges a clear indication it's mixed blood. That happens a lot. I see that every week, every single week. Someone messages me about that. That's a big one. And then Bloody Marys have a short rostrum, which is fire red, have a long rostrum. A lot of people don't know that. And then Bloody Marys give chocolate colours. Unfortunately, mine don't give chocolate colours because I bred it out. But in the original days when you started making Bloody Marys, that, a lot of people in the hobby, in shrimp hobby, weren't far back to remember that. But, I did it. So I had chocolates and I bred it for a long time and I made Bloody Mary. Glenn N.G. actually, got to give some credit here, was the first guy to do that. And that was that was a bit before my time, before I did it myself. But Glenn's very, very experienced and very good. So thought I'd give him a shout out for that. And then Caridina, there's so many different types. There's heaps. So here you've got your crystals. Here you got your white crystals, white King Kong. Here you got your blue bolt, red bolt, and white King Kong full. Then you got white bees, skeleton, green Hulk, very rare. Jelly, very rare. Then you got your pandas, shadow panda, Missoura, all your different types, red King Kong, super red, black KK. You got your tigers, your orange eye tigers, got your wild tiger. So in his presentation, he would have shown that one today. But yeah, you got your different Thai bees, different mixes, lots of different ones of them. You'd have over 100 different types of these, lots and lots. And then these are the wild ones they come from. So TB. So this is let me go back, sorry. So Taiwan B has its own set, and Crystal has its own set. They come in red and black. So to set up a bee shrimp tank, so this is what I recommend people do. So I made a 5-step little info cheat here to sort of cut it down a bit, but that's all you need. You can put some moss in there. Moss is good, but you really need to use the soil. And there's only 2 types of soil I'd recommend, is 80A Gold and Master Soil. If you use Amazonia version 2, very popular for aquascaping, but it gets rust and the shrimp die. It's really no good. So I go 1 litre of soil per 12 litres of tank water. This method I've shown here is the simplest to set up, but you want to replace it every 18 months because the poo sits in the substrate and it goes off. It's like a ticking time bomb. It gets too old, all your shrimp die, or they get sick and slow down. So that's a ticking time bomb. You can do different ways of doing it, but you got to be careful. Like you can do under gravel filter, and you can do box filter, and a few others, but they all have their different pros and cons. And I can answer questions that if you've got questions, it's hard to explain them all. So I just recommend setting up like this. It's simple, changing the soil out. Just highlight up here, point 2. A lot of people pre-wash it. Don't pre-wash it. It doesn't need washing. It's like aquarium gravel. You wash all the nutrients out. So don't pre-wash it. And obviously you need RO water. And filling it up, I just get some plastic bag and pour it over. Stops it stirring up. Because once it's stirred up, it takes like a week to settle back down. And it gets all murky and cloudy. So water for this is very different to Neo's. So you need RO water only. Some people do keep them in tap water for short periods of time, but I've yet to meet someone have 5-year plus success doing it. And it's just a disaster waiting to happen. A lot of people say you can. I'd argue you can for a time, and after that, it's not worth it. So they take a little bit of a TDS range, but 130 to 140, I sort of stick right in there. It's a much shorter window, but that's a tolerance I like to keep. A GH of 5, a KH, you don't want any KH, that's why I use RO water. So it stops the KH. So KH ruins the soil and the bees don't like it. The reason you use the soil as well as the pH, so no KH, the pH can move a lot more, but the soil sort of keeps it stable. And then you can add, obviously, lots of different additives like humic acid, fluvic acid, stuff like that. Temperature. So temperature is pretty important. So you want 21. 21 gives you a good mix of males and females. Over that, 24, they start aging out and dying really quick. You get more breeding, but it comes with more problems. I sometimes cycle my tanks down to 18 so I can make the shrimp live longer, just so I can do breeding. So if it's been a slow year, not many bred, I cool the water down to extend my breeding time of that shrimp. And then pH. So 5.5, 6.8, 6.8 is a bit high. Some of my tanks are 5.5, like the hybrids. 6 on the dot's probably what you sort of want to aim for. The soil will give you that. It just only lasts about 18 months for 6, then it starts creeping up. Can add almond leaves to drop it back down, but you've got to keep replacing them. You don't want to add too much, get too many tannins. It's not like a black water tank, you can't have that many tannins, like half a leaf for a 40 litre tank's probably ample. So the soil releases a heap of ammonia. So a lot of people think they put the soil in, the shrimp are ready to go in a couple of weeks. It's not that simple. So yeah, I sort of age my tanks for 8 to 10 weeks. Cycle it as you normally would for any other tank. And then during the cycling process, I add bacteria powder, DSP. It's probably the most common one in the hobby that's really good. That gives you nice green walls. Just don't disturb it, let it go. And just keep topping up the RO, evaporated water with RO water. And don't do a water, just keep doing that and you'll be good. So here's a few pictures. So these are the 2 saws. If you want to take a picture, these are the 2 ones you want to get. This one's pretty much discontinued at this point, but still some around, but harder to get. This one is a pretty good alternative. If I couldn't get this, I'd get this. Luckily for me, I got a lot in my shed. But this is the mineral you want. And Bacteria, you can use Bacteria, so this is more commercial one you can find at most stores. DSP is pretty much only through real shrimp enthusiasts. But Bacteria is pretty good, just don't put too much because it strips the oxygen out of the water. So be careful. But yeah, I tried to put common available products you could sort of source yourself, not without going through a specialised sort of dealer. And then here's some of my pride and joys. So these are all pure TB. They all breed the same. So this one only breeds this one, this breed only breeds this type. This one only breeds the green Hulk, very rare. They don't breed, you can put all different TBs in the same tank. I obviously split mine, but what makes these more special to me is this wine red only breeds that type of wine red pattern. No other different wine red pattern. And there's no cross genetics. So for me, that's a pretty cool sight. So this is one point I'd like to highlight. I'm probably a stickler for this sort of stuff. It's probably come across a bit. But these 2 shrimp look very, very similar, right? Most people in the hobby would say these are the same, but they're not. This is a blue bolt, this is a blue steel. So a lot of people come to me, they go, Conor, I bought blue bolts. I'm like, all right, show me your tank. No, you bought blue steel. Well, how do you know? Well, you can tell. You can look well when it breeds. So I made a little information post here. So, 10 blue bolts that you bought as blue bolts. And the babies start coming out as panda, shadow panda and blue bolt. That would be blue bolt with cross genes, but still TB because only TB babies came out. It would be only blue bolts if all of them came out as blue bolts, there'd be no cross genes for TB. When you get to blue steel, that's got pinto gene. That's not a blue bolt anymore, that's a pinto, so it's a blue steel. So, yeah, I think you can tell blue steel because this one's actually, I picked a really hard one, but this one you can see a little darker here, and in the light it like sort of fraction, you can sort of see like the speckles come off it. I should have picked a better photo, but I tried to highlight with this that they look really, really similar. If I picked one that looked slightly different, similar, you'd see it pretty easy. But in the babies, you can tell because if you breed 200 of them and some of them have got speckly in them, then it's definitely pinto gene blue steel. When you have 200 of them and you only need one, only needs to be ever one to come out and it's pinto gene, makes them all pinto gene. Even if you remove the one, it's still pinto by association. So I'm probably the biggest stickler in Australia for it. People either hate me or love me for it, but that's my point on it. So I just want to highlight that you can get stuff that looks very, very similar, but it's different. This is for later on. I'll cycle back if you wanted this later on. It's a bit too much to cover in this bit, but I'll cycle back to it. Just this is the post I made about different TBs, different breeding percentages and stuff like that. So here we've got PRL and PBL. These are true forms, so they breed only. So they always breed true to here, true to here. So then, yeah, with these are probably your most basic ones that you'll start out with for Caridina. They pretty much breed the same because they're PRL, PBL, PRL. You get CRS and CBS, but they're non-pure. So CBS will throw white bee or golden bee. So golden bee, white bee, distinction there. Tigers. So to my knowledge, there is no non-black OE tiger in Australia. We have OE ones, but the non-OE ones. I keep all the different OE ones, and I colour segregate mine. No one else really does, but I like to. So these are pretty versatile. So you can run these in Neo or B water. They're really versatile. You just got to stick. You can't. If you're going to run Neo, run them in Neo. Going to run B, run in B. Don't go between the two. Just stick them in one and stay in one. Is my recommendation. The only reason if you run them in Caridina water, just put a little bit of KH in there. Just put a little bit of KH in there. And they do grow a lot larger, about 4 centimetres, which is quite big for a little shrimp. But they're pretty fun. Here's highlighting a few of mine. So yeah, that's a black devil. It's a royal. These are rusty OE. These are pretty cool. These are red tiger. So yeah, these three down here are a pretty big flex. They're pretty nice. And then this is a bad because it didn't blow up well. But this is sort of showing the hybrids. There's heaps of hybrids. Too many to sort of cover. Like there's hundreds. But you sort of want, yeah, same sort of for Caridina water, but you just want to be a bit lower on your pH. Bit lower on your pH, I think they thrive a lot more. So yeah, pretty much set the tank up as you would a a Caridina or TB tank, but just lower the pH just slightly a bit more. And as I said, there's so many different types. So hybrids have OE variants, so it's cross, OE tiger cross, sub-pinto subtype. I'll show some at the end. You have many different subtypes, but the most popular in the hobby right now, trending, are probably fishbone, galaxy fishbone, zebra snowflake, spotted head, and cloud pinot. They're probably the most ones people would sort of get. When you start getting to fishbone and galaxy, there's so many hybridization, mixed ones, mixed tanks. Not many people keep a pure zebra only tank. I do, but most people just mix them all together and call it whatever they want, which you got to be careful for. Here's a few of mine. So they're pretty nice. So they're nice and dark, nice good colour spots. There's no bleeding in the spots. But also, like, keep in note, the price, expensive. But, yeah. But that's what you can get to when you put a lot of time and effort. You can get some really nice ones that breed all uniform and look pretty good. This one I'd like to highlight. So I made this myself. Here's my point. I made this myself. As you can see, a lot of people, other people liked it. A lot of people commented saying it was pretty good. So I make a big emphasis of not me telling people, but other people in the community saying, hey, this is pretty good, this is pretty nice, and they sort of do the talking for me. I think it's a bit making an ass of yourself if you keep telling everyone how good everything is. It's just not the right way to go. But I just wanted to sort of highlight this, that to get a shrimp like this takes a lot of years of breeding to get a full tank that looks uniform. And more to the point, making a hybrid is so much harder than making a nice Neo. Making a hybrid breed uniform and true, because you're working with so many different things. You've got to get the stripes right, you've got to get the legs, you've got to get the colour, you've got to look at the different markings on the carapace, you've got to get them all uniform. Whereas Neo, you're just working on one colour. So you're just selecting for the one thing. Here you're selecting for 3 different things. So it's much harder. So here's probably the common base type of pinto. So you've got Cloud Pinto, Nashi Pinto, you've got Nancy Pinto too, but they're very similar. It's just a different bar at the back. Zebra Pinto, Spot Head, so it's red. That's a very nice red one. That's a black one. So they're probably your base stock that you can make a lot of stuff from. Here's Orange Eyes. So this one I made, it's white, so it's a ghost bee with orange eye. It's the blue steel with orange eye. It's a red Dells very early on, so there's lots better ones now, but this was sort of one I did myself. This is a metallic OE, and this is a yellow devil, so it's got orange eyes. So these all are tiger, cross, a Caridina, and then line bred to get this pattern. So it takes a long time. So to sort of do this one, I used 9 different tanks, and it took like 5 or 6 years. So it took a long time to get to this product, but I'm happy I did. I'm really happy I put all that effort in. So yeah, overall, I think making a shrimp is a lot harder than just saying, I'm going to go make this. It's a lot of effort. It's really easier just to buy it, unless you're really hell-bent on doing it. But yeah, it's hard. I've given a fair few examples. And along the way, you can have a tank that crashes or something that dies and you just get set back. And that's just the nature of the beast. So yeah, if you have any questions on specific cross types you'd like to mic, I can answer it, don't mind. It was just really hard to put all the different crosses in. There'd be so many to go through. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any that you want. I'll give you the answer. So these aren't my photos, but I thought I'd highlight about disease and parasites that are in shrimp. So these are probably the 4 most common that you will incur in the hobby. So you've got fungus infection, muscle necrosis, rust disease, and planaria and hydra. So rust disease is super easy to sort of see. You've got little spots of brown, looks like rust, right? And that's really problematic. You want to just remove all the shrimp out that have it and kill them. Same with necrosis. Necrosis is sort of bad water quality over a longer extended period of time. They develop necrosis, and then once they eat it, they pass it on. So yeah, just trying to stop that transmission of them passing it on. So you pretty much want to cull everything that looks a bit iffy and hope for the best really on that one. You don't really get fungus infection. It's pretty isolated to that single shrimp unless you let it go on and on and on. But most people can sort of see it. You can just hook it out and you're pretty good. And then obviously internal, sort of has to come from someone. You can't really get it in your own tank if you don't have it to start with. So it's pretty isolated, but just watch out for that. I would say this one is probably, the necrosis is probably the most common one you'll run into in your own tank. If you buy someone else's stuff, rust disease is pretty prevalent. But if you get onto it early, both of them are pretty all right to sort of weed out over time. Hydra and planaria is caused by overfeeding. Hydra, I feel, is a lot worse than planaria. Hydra sting all the babies and kill them pretty easily, and they're really easy to treat. This is just probably one of the better known products to sort of treat with. The G-Chem No Planaria. It's a bit pricey now, but it works really good. There's a fair few Lee Creek Aquatics do like a pump pump bottle you can sort of use. It's pretty effective. Treating planaria eat the shrimp. A lot of the babies when they molt, sort of predator sort of type. Planaria in my mind aren't as bad as Hydra. But I think both you got to get rid of, but I wouldn't be worried as much with planaria because you got to get to super high numbers. Whereas, 30, 40 Hydra can pretty knock out a tank pretty easy. And then this is another post I made, I'll go through at the end. But sort of ranking the shrimp to where to start. A lot of people ask me, where do I start with different shrimp? So Neos are probably the first one you start with. Then you probably go to a Tiger, just the next level. Then Caridina, like CRS, Michelin, TB, something with cross genetics in it, or a CRS, CBS, which is not pure anyway. So start with a lower base stuff that has more gene pool to it. It's more hardier. Then go to PBL, PRL, Blue Steel. It has cross genetics, but the PRL, PBL is just an extension from CBS pure because they're probably the most easy base type. Then go some go with a B that has cross genetics. Then probably go up to a different type of Tiger, like a harder one. Then I'd go Pinto TB with Pinto, then pure TB, and then the wild Barbuti or Solesi is probably one of the last ones you go to. A lot of people do start with them because they look really cool and they're much cheaper now. When I looked into the hobby, they used to be $1,000 each for a white glove. Now it's $40. Times changed. But you got to keep the water at 28 degrees and mix the mineral, and yeah, they're much harder. This is sort of just going to show about the grade and breeding percentage. So to me, this shrimp's pretty much as good as you can get it. You can't really get it any better. So it's all uniform colour, nice, all leg colour, rostrum colour, tail colour, all perfect. But just that one shrimp by itself doesn't really mean a lot. It's good to have one that looks like that, but if the whole tank looks like that, that's much better than just one tank, right? One individual. So to be called a high grade tank, in my opinion, I don't call any of my shrimp high grade unless 95% of the shrimp look like that. That's not high grade to me. It's medium grade. So that's what I probably class it as. And then you got your different grading. So you obviously have no defects, uniformity, shape, leg colour and body colour have to be all on point as that example. And then here just goes through a grading chart. So you can see low grade, it's opaque, more opaque, leg colour, body colour is not so good. Medium grade, you're getting a bit better body colour. And then higher grade, everything's really nice, solid. And then overseas I have like rusty markings, and overseas I have rusty markings which don't affect the colour because blue dreams sometimes get rusty patches, dark patches, but to me that affects it, but overseas it doesn't. It's big give or take, depends what you're sort of what you want to look for in your shrimp. So I only feed my own food I make myself for every tank. It's very labour intensive to make. I collect all the stuff myself. But if you want to use commercial foods, as we were talking earlier in the night, these are probably the 10 commercial foods I'd get off the shelf. Red Bear Ambitious you can't get anymore, but HWA version 1, G League Gold, G League Black, they're all super, super available. So if you just want a commercial food, they're the ones I'd pick. As I said, I only use my own. But feeding wise, you don't need a lot. Like that there will do 30 adult shrimp. There's a P for scale. It's not a lot of food. So you don't have to feed a lot in volume for your shrimp. I would probably feed, for my real big tanks, maybe, 6. So probably a piece like this big. That's a Shrimp King stick cut into 4 bits. I'd probably feed a shrimp and a stick and a half. And Shrimp King's a 45 gram bottle, which would last a keeper quite a while. So additional things I'd suggest adding to your tanks if you wanted to. So calcium-based clay powder. I use this for all my tanks. It helps the molting. So better you can get your molts, the better you're going to have survival. And the babies molt a lot in their first month and a half. So if you can get them living, it's much better. Dried locust leaves for tannins in my bee tanks. I think it reduces the sickness rate a bit. I think the tannins help with that. Soy pellet is good for biofilm, really good for biofilm, doesn't pollute the water. And fruit tree leaves, so they have really high source of calcium. So you can use locust leaves, mulberry leaves, probably the most well-known one. Just blanch them, they go really well. So yeah, reverse osmosis machine, if you're starting to get into shrimp and you sort of like it, probably this entry-level machine's really good. You can't change any of the parts, so once the TDS starts creeping up, it's get a new machine. If you get really into your shrimp, this is probably the one I'd get because you've got the DI stage as well to polish up the water. I wouldn't sort of get this until you have a fair few tanks and you really like it, because it's a bit pricey to sort of lash out $500 if you're not really into it yet. So common tips, don't rush setting up a tank. It's ready when it's ready. A lot of people just want to get it in there and get it going, but it causes more problems than good. Feed quality proven products. So yeah, using cheap alternatives isn't recommended. So on that list I put up of 10 shrimp foods, I've used all those foods. I get samples of food all the time. That's my top 10 list. If you want to go off a shelf, buy one of those 10 products, you'll be fine. That's what I would do. So yeah, you should be good. So these are some of the projects I would like to highlight of my personal favourites that I've personally done. So this one is the only one in Australia. I made it. So it's a red tiger cross a ghost bee. So I think that looks pretty cool. It's the white OE I said. So that took 5 years. So yeah, that one's pretty nice. This one's the reverse rilly. So you have a blue jelly, but the rilly's in the middle, not on the end like a regular rilly. I think that one's pretty nice. And then Green Hulk. So I spent 8 years chasing this dream. It was a lot of effort. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of people liked it. A lot of people commented about it. So I did this early last year. I released it into the hobby as I've now completed this. It was a lot of tank crashing, a lot of moving, a lot of effort, but I'm happy I got there. And then this is a white fishbone. So you have red and black fishbone, this is a white one. So you can clearly see the fishbone marking, it's very defined. Just a side project I took on. Black Devil. So 2018, 19, 20, 21. Black Devil was super rare. Now a lot of people smuggled them over, so they're more common, but they're still really cool, and I did that myself from Royal. So I had Royal, I selected it and made Black Devil myself, so that's a proud achievement for me. This one is controversial in the hobby. I think it looks purple. Well, some disagree, some agree. It's not pure. It's not fully pure, but it's more purple than I've seen. I've seen a lot of shrimp. So that's just something I'd like to highlight. It's like my proudest achievement I've ever done is try to breed a purple OE tiger. So that's probably my biggest achievement. So yeah, I thought I'd just give myself a little plug. So yeah, I sell a lot of shrimp, have lots of good reviews. Customers don't write reviews like this unless your product's really good and they're really happy with your service. So I just thought I'd like to highlight that. And then obviously this shrimp's pretty nice. It's yeah, galaxy fishbone, snowflake. But yeah, so I sort of did a special here. So if you wanted to buy any of my stuff, I'll give you 10% off and give you a free CSA food pack to get you going. Just take a photo of this, and yeah, I'll give you the deal. I'd just like to note my shrimp is probably a lot more expensive than everywhere else, but you're getting what you're paying for, and I've hopefully highlighted that tonight. Now we get to the questions you want to ask or stuff you want to see. So if you've got questions or other things you want me to elaborate on, more than happy to do it. But that's the end of that bit of the presentation.
Can you leave that last? Can you just leave the last slide up so I can get it?
Oh.
Your discount slide.
Yeah, I'll go to it. Oh, I don't know how to. I'll click on it. Oh.
With the mouse.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
What comparison to a standard that you buy to shrink?
Um,
Yours would be.
So Conor, what are we talking about price-wise? Can you give us a...
Exactly.
maybe like for a Neo, like $20 versus $4.
Yeah.
And then different, really high-end B shrimp, you could be looking at like $500 to like $800 if you want a pair. If you want my best selection, some people, like some customers only want my best ones I want to breed from. You know, it comes with a lot more, over $1,000 if you want like different boxes, different stuff. So a lot of my stuff is pretty competitive if you don't want like the best ones I want to personally breed from myself. Some people only want that. But Neos, you're probably looking at $10 to get a juvie that's pretty nice, I'd consider pretty nice. I think my standards are pretty high. So a lot of people buy my medium grade and go, oh, they're much better than I've ever had. But to me, it's a medium grade. If you want stuff that I class as high grade, that's when my prices start going up a fair bit. But yeah, to answer your question, like, you know, $10, $15 for most, and then more specialty ones, you start climbing into the hundreds.
And postage?
$20 flat rate. Yep.
Conor, my fishering's mostly rainwater just due to what I keep.
Mm-hmm.
Better for bees or Neos?
You can do both. So if you just add the mineral, it's good for the Neos,
Yeah.
and it's great for bees. It's like RO water in a way.
Yeah.
It's really low TDS. It's, you can use rainwater as a substitute. Just make sure it doesn't have leaf litter in the bottom of the tank. But it works well.
Yeah.
Yep, I'd recommend that. Yep.
Any idea what's in the GH and the KH salts?
No.
Just throwing weird stuff into your tank without knowing
Oh, it's-
exactly what you're throwing in.
Well, not really weird. It's, but
Is it calcium, magnesium, or?
I never thought to ask. I think you got to be, there's two trains of thoughts here on the salt, so I didn't really mention it, but back in the day there was only one company that made the salt, and that was Salty B. It's real expensive now, but I still use Salty B myself. You can get people that make back home remineralizers, but the levels aren't consistent. So you might get a jar, so some come in liquid form, you get liquid form and powdered form. So there's a lot of guys in Australia that make their own and sell it. It's way cheaper, but the consistency isn't always the same. So you might squirt one week and squirt the next week, it's not the same. Whereas at least with a company that produces it, it's pretty standard. Every scoop's about the same concentration. Shrimp King's probably one of the cheaper commercial minerals that you can get off the shelf. But
You're measuring your KH and your GH.
Yeah.
Your meters and that, so
Yeah.
there must be something that you know that you're putting in there in order to
well,
measure the percentage of calcium.
yeah, it just doesn't have it on the product what the percentages are. It's not listed. I think for me, that's a concern. I don't really care myself. I just know the product works. And I would, for the money, I think a Shrimp King jar of minerals like $45, $50. And for a regular person, that will last you 4 or 5 months. You can get stuff that people make up at home for 25, 30. I don't think it's worth the risk of doing it. You can get Tima mineral, get 3 kilos for about $100, but that's not as good in my opinion as the others. Yeah. So yeah, I just never really looked to what's technically in it. I just know it works. Yeah.
Is there any other natural products you use to substitute calcium, or you just stick to basically, like things like cuttlefish bone?
Yeah, you can use cuttlefish bone. How do I explain it? I think cuttlefish bone's really fine. So it's a really fine powder, and if you leave it as fragments of cuttle bone, right, the shrimp can't really uptake it that well. It does work. It does work, but your dosage rate is very dependent on that shrimp nibbling it and eating that bit. If it doesn't, the small shrimp don't move much in the first couple of weeks. It can't really go over there to nibble the cuttle bone. I like the clay powder because it's fine. It disperses the whole tank, and I think it's more bioavailability for the shrimp to eat that. So I just stick with it. So yeah, a lot of stuff that I've done, I'm sort of pretty regimented. I've sort of done it for so many years that I sort of go, okay, I'm sticking to this, and I'm not really going outside of it. But yeah, cuttlebone does work. It just it's good and bad because I don't think the shrimp can uptake it if it's in one spot. They can't all get there to eat it. But it will work. Yeah.
Conor, the clay you talked about, is that the bentonite clay?
Yeah.
Or Montbril?
Yeah, both. So like very, very similar.
Yeah.
But you want the calcium-based one.
Do you get that sort of like at a health food store or?
Yeah, you can buy it online. A mate of mine sent me a 40-kilo sack of it about 6 years ago. So I just keep using that. But yeah, I go through a fair bit. But yeah, you can get through it. You don't need a lot. Like 20 grams will probably last you a year. You don't use a lot of it. It's a very small amount. But it works. It's really good. It's probably a thing I'd definitely recommend because it stops molt problems. So you get under-molting and over-molting. So in shrimp, under-molting, the molt gets stuck. So the shrimp tries to molt and the molt can't all come off. So you get like a two-part molt. So you get either a head or a tail and the shrimp dies. Too hard, the water, which is more rarer, it's mostly you've mixed up, you've gone too high and your GH or your KH has gone really high. The shrimp tries to molt and dies inside the molt. That's how you can distinguish between too soft and too hard. It's mostly too soft. So too soft, you get one bit of the molt and the other bit doesn't come off and it sticks. Or you get like parts of molt where it's not clean. You add mineral, you add calcium mineral, the clay mineral I use to then overcome that. Situations you run into that is you have too many shrimp, if not enough mineral between all the shrimp and some are deficient. Two is you're not supplementing enough in your foods. I put clay in my food so it saves me putting it in every tank every week. I put it into the foods, they eat it every day. But a lot of foods out there don't put it in the food because they just don't come with it. So if you buy a commercial food, every week you do a water change, you add your clay. You add a very small bit of clay. And that overcomes that. So that's just a differentiation. So you don't want to put clay, heaps of clay in if you don't really need it. But it's good to have.
So does that affect the pH of the water?
It does a little bit. Not much. You don't really add enough to really have see a change in the drops because you're adding in like such a small amount per water volume. Like if your tank's 40 litres and you're adding in I didn't bring my shrimp. I used a special spoon to put it in, but you're adding in a 30th of your fingernail worth. It's not really going to have a big effect. So yeah, it's probably null and voided that effect.
And Conor, on the picture there, you've got that dish.
Yep.
Is that your mainstay for feeding? You put everything in that dish?
Yeah. So that's a terracotta pot from Bunnings. They're about $2. So my food, I feed powdered food for all my tanks. But if I want good photos, I actually put some xanthan gum and roll it up and drop it in there, and they all looks pretty good. Feeding dish is really good if you want to use regular non-powdered food because if they don't eat all the food, it just sits in the soil and goes down. You got to suck it up. Whereas this, if it doesn't eat all the food within 2 hours, you can go get a little airline hose and suck it up. It's all in the dish. It's not going to go into the soil. So it saves polluting the soil. That's why I do it. But yeah, my dishes are more in there just if I want photos because I do powdered food.
Thank you.
Cool. No more questions?